After I died, I was turned into cured meat. To cheer up her beloved stepson, my mother personally cooked and served me on the dinner table as a dish of stir-fried cured meat with hot peppers. Knock, knock, knock. Who is it? My mom opened the door. Leo, what brings you here? I've brought you some meat, the middle-aged man said with a simple smile, opening the red plastic bag he was holding. Inside were two fragrant pieces of cured meat, their red flesh and white fat vividly apparent. My mom didn't accept it right away. She hesitated. Oh, I really shouldn't. It's nothing, we're practically neighbors. Leo firmly pushed the bag into her hands. I still have more meat I haven't dealt with. You start with this, and I'll bring you more in a few days. He kept smiling as he waved and entered the elevator. Watching his disappearing figure, my mom muttered under her breath, "He's quite generous this year." She didn't think much of it, and I followed her into the house. Lucas came over. "Mom, I'm getting hungry just smelling that cured meat." "Then message your sister right away." Uncle Bob came out of the bedroom and asked her what time she'll be home. "Dad, I already called her," Lucas stammered, a look of hurt appearing on his face. "She just yelled, 'Get lost,' and hung up. She won't answer my calls now. This kid. She's probably still holding a grudge against Lucas." Uncle Bob shook his head. "She won't even come home for the holidays. I'll call her." My mom's expression darkened. "No need. If she doesn't want to come back, that's on her." She angrily threw the cured meat onto the floor. "Raising her is worse than raising a dog." Lucas quickly tried to appease her. "Mom, don't get upset over this. You still have me and Dad here with you." As soon as he spoke, my mom visibly relaxed. I stood aside watching them, accustomed to this family of three. When Lucas first moved in, he would only call my mom Aunt Lily. Then, all the toys, new clothes, and snacks I had never seen or was allowed to touch were presented to him. I still remember when he first called her Mom. My mom was so overjoyed she was almost speechless, tearfully embracing father and son, and there I was, 6 years old, standing dumbly on the side, not far from them, yet distinctly apart, as if we were worlds split in two. Just like now, even though I stood right in front of them, no one could see me. In life, they overlooked me. In death, it was the same. At the kitchen door, a choking spicy scent wafted out. My mom, head bowed, sliced the cured meat one piece at a time. Dark red blood seeped out, dripping onto the cutting board. She frowned. "This doesn't feel quite like the meat we bought before." I watched that piece of meat emotionlessly, my smile bitter. How could it be the same? This wasn't made from pork. Looking again at the peppers in the pan, my smile grew even wider. I never imagined I'd encounter them in this way. Lucas and Uncle Bob loved spicy food, but I couldn't even touch it, not because I didn't like it, or couldn't eat it, but because I wasn't worthy. "It's all because of you, otherwise, your dad wouldn't have died." This phrase haunted me throughout my childhood. They say, sour for boys, spicy for girls. When my mom was pregnant with me, she craved spicy food intensely. Every night, my dad would go out to buy her spicy chicken, but that day, he encountered a driver who was fatigued at the wheel. Even after being rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment, he never regained consciousness. My mother nearly fainted on the spot and gave birth to me in a severe hemorrhage. Initially, she didn't dislike me, but my grandmother, white-haired, had to bury her black-haired son, living her days in sorrow. Her health was poor, and she passed away within a couple of years. While alive, she couldn't help but blame my mother and me occasionally. "If only you were a boy, maybe your mother wouldn't crave spicy food so much." It was an incredible and somewhat irrational thought. Perhaps it was just something she said in her extreme grief, but my mother took it to heart. Her gaze towards me gradually turned cold. When I was young and naive, seeing Lucas enjoy his food made me want to try it too, but whenever I reached out with my chopsticks, the entire table of food would be overturned. "Heidi," my mother said with a chilling face, "you have no right to touch chili in your lifetime." Drenched in soup from head to toe, I burst into tears, but no one came to comfort me. Eventually, Uncle Bob calmed my mother down, and their family of three would go out to eat, hand in hand. As for me, in their words, "A child stops crying once they tire." Since then, whether I liked it or not, I would only eat from the dish closest to me. Even after going to college, even after moving out of that home, this habit followed me. It clung to me like an incurable disease. A dorm mate once said, "Heidi, you really seem like a child who's grown up dependent on others and always watching people's faces." It was just a joke, but at that moment, it felt like a sharp needle slowly piercing into my soft, vital organs, not fatal, but an extreme form of torment and agony. And now, drowned in that same torment, I watched this family closely, watching them on this New Year's Eve, gathering together as a family. This New Year's Eve dinner felt somewhat cold. Previously, my mother would occasionally serve Lucas food. If there were seafood that needed shelling, she never let Lucas lift a finger, but when I eagerly moved my small bowl closer, my mother would impatiently say, "What's the matter? Eat by yourself. I can't peel anymore." Thus, I, a year younger than Lucas, had to slowly and clumsily learn to fend for myself like an adult. But tonight, my mother did not reach out with her chopsticks towards Lucas. She seemed somewhat distracted. This abnormal behavior did not escape the observant Uncle Bob. He gave a knowing look, and Lucas understood. "Mom, maybe I should move out for a couple of days." He pretended to be helpless. "If I'm not here, Heidi might be willing to come home for the new year." Uncle Bob also sighed. "Girls are not like boys. They're always more delicate and hold grudges longer." My mother paused in her eating. She furrowed her brows subconsciously and looked at Lucas. "What are you talking about? How could I possibly let you move out during New Year?" At that moment, I couldn't help but show a mocking smile. "It has always been like this, between me and Lucas. She would never choose me." It was the same now as it had been in the past. Although Lucas was a year older than me, he had repeated a grade and was in the same class as me. During our senior year, he played truth or dare. Encouraged and egged on by others, he stole the class funds that the teacher had left on the podium. A group of them were laughing and joking, indulging in food and fun everywhere, and quickly squandered the $2,000+ while enjoying their spoils like victors. They never considered the consequences of their actions. The next day, the teacher flew into a rage and reported the incident to the police in front of everyone. Lucas was completely stunned. It's important to note that though it wasn't his idea, he was the one who stole the money. Strictly speaking, Lucas was the main culprit. That day, after school, he locked himself in his room. It was only after half an hour of persuading by my mom and Uncle Bob, who were outside, that he agreed to come out, completely distraught. He confessed everything under their questioning. That evening, my mom, unusually, took the initiative to enter my room. "Tomorrow, you return this money to the teacher, but don't say it was Lucas who took it." She avoided my incredulous gaze, seeming a bit guilty, and added, "Your grades are good, even if it was you, the teacher won't be too harsh on you." I didn't take the money, and with a trembling voice, I asked her, "Have you considered my direct admission if I get penalized?" Before I could finish, my mom interrupted me with a frown. "As long as the teacher doesn't pursue it, there won't be any impact." She paused. "Besides, even if you can't get direct admission, taking the college entrance exam is just the same." I didn't agree and numbly asked my mom to leave. Perhaps she had never been treated by me with such an attitude before. Her voice immediately rose, and a continuous stream of accusations followed. "Heidi, you're really selfish. Just for a mere direct admission, just because you don't want to take the college entrance exam, you can watch your own brother fall into despair. I should never have had you." The next day, my mom left early with the money. During the long break, the teacher called me into the office. She was serious. "Your mother came and returned the class funds. Normally, this would definitely warrant a demerit, but considering you've already been granted direct admission, we won't pursue this any further. Just make sure this never happens again." My body swayed, and my ears rang. I opened my mouth to say something, but what could I say? Should I say that my own mother, to protect someone else, threw her own daughter under the bus? "Mom, it's said that every child was once an angel, carefully choosing their mother while lying on a cloud. I chose you, and then tossed away countless treasures from heaven, naked, like a little beggar with nothing. I came to you. But you've always been choosing someone else. How ridiculous." After dinner, Lucas lay on the living room sofa. He held a bag of chips, sitting next to my mom and Uncle Bob. The TV was showing a comedy sketch, and they laughed uncontrollably. As my mom laughed, she suddenly glanced at a small stool next to the coffee table, lonely and empty. Her laughter stopped abruptly. That was usually my spot. The living room couch was clearly for 4 people. But Lucas always complained it was uncomfortable unless he lay down. You sit there, so Lucas won't complain about it being too cramped. My mom casually pointed to a spot for me. Since then, the four-seater sofa became for 3 people. Gradually, I preferred to stay alone in my room, like an ostrich burying its head in the sand. There's no need to be constantly reminded of one fact: they are the real family, and I am the outsider. The crunching sound of potato chips snapped my mother out of her daze. She shook her head as if to clear her thoughts, then reached behind and pulled out a gift box. Lucas, a New Year's gift. Lucas smiled as he took it. Thanks, Mom. This scene repeats every year, from childhood, whether it's Children's Day or New Year's. Lucas always receives gifts. For me, the word gift is like the moon reflected in a mirror or flowers seen in the water. Visible, but untouchable, in short. Something I never had, not to mention those holidays. I've never even celebrated my birthday. On the day I was born, my mother completely lost my father. She says that was the source of all her misfortune. Thus, I not only have no right to touch spicy food, but I also don't deserve to celebrate my birthday. But before I turned 6, my grandmother was still alive. She was different from my grandmother on my father's side. She loved me deeply since I was little, since I could remember. I realized that other children celebrated their birthdays. Once, my grandmother saw me staring at the TV, babbling along with a birthday song. On my 5th birthday, she secretly bought a small cake. By 4 in the afternoon, the candles were lit. I looked at the snowy white cream on the cake, my eyes sparkling. Grandma, don't they usually celebrate birthdays at night on TV? The candlelight in the daytime wasn't as bright as the stars at night. Grandma touched the top of my head. Her eyes filled with shining affection. Come on, we need to make a wish and eat the cake before your mom gets home from work. But before she could finish speaking, the sound of a key turning in the door lock echoed. My mom was back. She usually finished work at 5, but that day she came back early because she had left a seal at home. The birthday song abruptly stopped. The flickering candlelight in my memory is forever frozen at that moment. My mom's face was ashen as she strode closer. My grandmother was anxious. The child is so grown up, and he's never had a single birthday. Before she could finish, my mom swept the cake from the coffee table to the floor. She looked at me coldly. A birthday? I stood there, stunned, staring at the now flattened and deformed cake, unable to move. But my mom, as if provoked, started frantically smashing things around the house. She screamed hysterically, "How dare you? How dare you celebrate a birthday?" Grandma hugged me tightly, covering my ears firmly, but I could still hear my mom screaming shrilly for me to die. The tone was one of extreme disgust, hatred, and madness. It was exactly like when that person chopped off my limbs with a cleaver. The night deepened. Lucas yawned and got up to head to the kitchen. As he passed by the coffee table, he seemed to see something bothersome. With a kick, he sent the small stool flying. Only when it rolled far away did Lucas smile satisfactorily. He opened the fridge, which was always filled with his favorite orange juice, and I, alas, am allergic to it. In the 2nd year of junior high, my mom's colleague came to our house for dinner. She brought a lot of stuff, including fish, shrimp, snacks, and a big bottle of orange juice with fruit pieces, because my mom often mentioned that her child loved orange juice. Once we were at the dinner table, everyone had a drink in front of them, besides me. Aunt Jane noticed and asked why I wasn't drinking. Lucas quickly interjected, "She can't drink it, she's allergic to oranges." After saying that, he deliberately took a sip from his glass, glancing over with a smug look in his eyes. Aunt Jane was surprised. "But there are only oranges on your family's coffee table." She looked at my mom, then got up. "You should have told me earlier. I'll go down to the supermarket and get something else for the kid." "No need, please sit down." My mom quickly stopped her. "Everyone else can drink it. No need to make a special case just for her." In the end, Aunt Jane still went to buy it. That was the first time someone asked me what I liked to drink since my grandmother passed away. During the meal, I skillfully peeled shrimp for myself. Occasionally, when my mom wasn't looking, I'd put some in her bowl, and in Lucas's bowl. The peeled shrimp and deboned fish piled up like a small mountain. Aunt Jane's gaze fell on me. "It's nice to have a daughter," she smiled warmly, her hand resting on her slightly protruding belly. "If my daughter could be as well behaved as Heidi." I looked up and saw her eyes full of love. For a moment, I felt bewildered and instinctively averted my gaze. I hurriedly picked up the apple juice beside me, trying to hide something. But as soon as I took a sip, I began to cough violently. Then, an itch spread through my body, and my skin flushed red. Is this an allergic reaction? Aunt Jane exclaimed in shock, and everyone looked over. Lucas shouted, "Why did you sneak some of my orange juice?" I endured the discomfort, looking at him, lying. The taste clearly had orange juice mixed into the apple juice. He was sitting right next to me, only he would secretly add orange juice to my drink. Lucas has always been hostile towards me since we were kids. At first, he didn't dare show it, but once he noticed my mom's neglect towards me, he began to act recklessly. In front of my mom, he would smear my reputation and play all sorts of tricks, afraid that I would get any attention, afraid that I would share even a bit of love. Lucas has told me more than once in private, "Your mom, she will only be nice to me, you don't have a mom anymore." Eventually, I, with my allergic reaction, was sent to the hospital. On the way, my mom's voice was cold. "Can't you stop messing up my life? They say girls take after their dads. Why aren't you a bit like him?" Ridiculous. He loved oranges, and you're allergic to them. I don't know why I ever. Sitting in the back seat, my face swollen from the allergy, my vision obscured. Even so, I strained to open my eyes wide, staring at the rearview mirror, looking at the reflection of the person, trying to see if there was even a trace of concern on my mom's face. After a long while, I quietly asked her, "Mom, if you regret having me, why didn't you send me away after Grandma died? That way, your life wouldn't be a mess." The red light came on, the harsh sound of brakes screeched. My mom sat in the driver's seat. She didn't turn around. This question, buried in my heart for decades, remained unanswered. On New Year's Eve, the clock struck 12. Outside, the sound of firecrackers filled the air, fireworks enveloping everything. My mom put a scarf on Lucas, and the family of 3 stepped out together. Watching the firecrackers in their hands turn into plumes of smoke drifting slowly towards the sky, tonight symbolizes bidding farewell to the old and welcoming the new. However, for me, it only means saying goodbye to the old. I can't welcome anything new anymore. As the fireworks burst into the sky, my mom, with a smile, said to Lucas, "Lucas, I hope everything goes smoothly for you in the new year, and that you find peace and joy." Lucas, peace and joy. And me, ever since I was young, I've always wondered how wonderful it would be if my dad were still here. In 6th grade, our Chinese teacher assigned us homework to write a letter to our parents. That night, I held my pen for a long time but couldn't write a single word. Eventually, when I placed the letter on my mom's bedside, it contained only one sentence: "Would you love me if Dad were still here?" When the letter returned to me, my mom's reply also had just one sentence: "There are no ifs." The next day was the spring festival. My mom was awakened by her phone ringing. It was a call from the neighborhood committee, saying that due to the increased movement of people during the festival, the authorities required a registration of each household's occupants. She reported truthfully, and just before hanging up, the staff member routinely asked, "Is there anyone in your family who hasn't returned home?" My mom paused, her face slightly tense, and replied, "No. There are just 3 of us." After ending the call, she lost the urge to sleep. She got up, turned on the TV in the living room, and started preparing breakfast in the kitchen. Just as she took out eggs from the fridge, the news broadcaster on TV mentioned, "During the Spring Festival, we hope that citizens will heighten their safety awareness, especially single women living alone, who are most vulnerable to attacks." Somehow, my mom's hand slipped, the egg fell to the ground and broke. She crouched down to clean up but then left the cloth on the floor, freezing in place for a few seconds before standing up and walking back to the bedroom. I watched her pick up her phone, staring intently at the lit screen, displaying a message sent 10 days ago. "Mom," it read, simply those 2 words, sent from my mobile number saved under the contact name, Heidi. My mom opened the message editor, typed something, then deleted it, over and over. I no longer had the capacity to wonder what she wanted to say after seeing that message. At that moment, memories I had forcibly suppressed flooded my mind, overwhelming me like a tidal wave. That day, I had dragged my suitcase to the entrance of my apartment building. As the elevator doors were about to close, a middle-aged man entered. He noticed the button for the ninth floor lit up and hesitated with his hand extended. You live in 902 on the ninth floor, right? He asked. Somewhat unfamiliar to me, but I nodded slightly. The man smiled and pressed the button for the 8th floor. I moved here a couple of years ago, haven't seen you before, but I often see your mom, and she's mentioned having a daughter who graduated and lives out of town, seldom coming home. I just gripped the handle of my suitcase, saying nothing as the elevator slowly ascended. Then, unexpectedly, he spoke again. Miss, when we reach the 8th floor, could you hold the elevator door for me for a moment? I just need to grab something from home and am in a hurry to get somewhere. I'm worried the elevator might go down again by itself. It was a small request, and I thoughtlessly agreed. However, when he returned to the elevator after coming out of his home, using a piece of cloth just acquired, my mouth and nose were covered, stifling my breath. I struggled fiercely but was forcefully held down. The elevator ascended to the 9th floor and the doors opened. The familiar vermilion door to my home was only a few steps away. I could even hear my mom's voice calling out from inside, telling Lucas it was time to eat. Behind me, a voice chuckled. See, how happy that home is without you. Under the influence of the drug, my consciousness began to blur. The elevator doors slowly closed, shutting out everything, including hope that was so close, yet so distant. When I came to, my hands and feet were bound with ropes, scattered around me were broken and worn-out tools. The middle-aged man sat in front of me, the sound of metal scraping echoed in my ears as he sharpened a bone-chopping knife. Awake? He asked, without another word. He kicked me in the stomach. He squatted down, grabbed my hair, and yanked it forcefully backward. He said, "How dare you still live in this world with a face like yours? An ungrateful beast like you deserves to die, to be hacked into pieces to quell the hatred in my heart." I lay prostrate on the ground, trying to scream for help, but only whimpers escaped. My mouth was sealed with tape. I couldn't even ask why. Amused by my agony, the man lifted my phone in front of me. It showed that 5 minutes ago, he had sent a text to my mom. A simple message. "Mom," he chuckled lightly, his laugh tinged with malice. "I'm giving you a chance to live, only if your mom still cares about you." Half an hour passed. The message had been read, but there was no reply. I watched as he stepped closer, his foot crushing the silent phone. He raised the bone chopper high and then brought it down. The next second, I heard the sound of bones cracking, blood splattering. He said, "Indeed, you are already forsaken, before my death." Through the small window of the abandoned factory, I saw the dark night sky adorned with dazzling stars. On my 5th birthday, as my emotionally overwhelmed mother stayed away, my grandmother held me and took me to a nearby park. Sitting on a swing, looking up, I asked her, "Did I cause Dad's death?" "Mom told me to die. Does she want me to go find Dad? But I haven't made my wish for Dad to come back yet." Tears suddenly fell from my grandmother's eyes. She touched my face. "Heidi, don't hate your mom. She is ill. That's why she acts this way." Although young, I knew being sick was bad. "Where is Mom sick? Let's buy her medicine," I suggested. Grandmother gently shook her head, pointing to her heart. "Your mom's illness is in her heart." Her eyes filled with both pity and helplessness. She continued, "Heidi, let's give your mom some more time. Try to understand her better." I nodded, not fully understanding. With a kind smile, she embraced me, then pointed upwards. "See, that star up there is your dad. If Heidi ever feels sad, just look up. Dad is always there." I followed the direction she pointed, and the stars twinkled above. After Grandma passed away, there seemed to be 2 more stars in the sky. Her words have stayed with me ever since, so no matter how my mom treated me, I tried my best to understand her. She must be sick. That's why she behaved like that. It's okay. She will get better. One day, she will love me. But when the cold blade fell, I looked out the window. Silently, I apologized in my heart. "Grandma, I might not be able to not hate Mom anymore." Understanding her, it really hurts and is exhausting. The next moment, my vision darkened. No more starlight in my eyes. My soul left my body, yet, I couldn't step out of the factory. It was as if an invisible force firmly imprisoned me, like rootless duckweed drifting. I could only watch helplessly as the man occasionally came by to turn me into cured meat, until he delivered the meat to my mom. At that moment, The force that imprisoned me seemed to have been transferred in this way. Unexpectedly, returning to this home, I would be served on the dining table by my own mother. In the bedroom, the screen of my mom's phone lit up, then dimmed, brightened and dimmed repeatedly, until she irritably closed her eyes. Finally, she chose to cancel the text message she was editing. Just then, the phone rang. It was from an unknown number. My mom pressed the answer button, and a voice very familiar to me came through. "Hello, is this Heidi's mom? I'm her foster mother. She had been living with me. Heidi took annual leave from her hospital job 10 days ago, saying she was coming home for the new year. But since then, I haven't been able to contact her. Could you ask Heidi to call me back?" My mom froze, holding the phone without a chance to respond. Then Lucas's voice came from outside. "Mom, the police are here." The call was temporarily hung up. As she walked to the door, 2 police officers stood outside, showing their credentials again. "This is Heidi's home, right? We hope you'll cooperate with us and come with us to assist with the investigation." In the police car, my mom pursed her lips. After hesitating for a while, she finally spoke to the police officer seated in front. "Excuse me, is something wrong with Heidi?" One of the officers glanced at her. "You'll know once we get to the station." Lucas shifted in his seat. "She's at the station." The officer hesitated but nodded silently. Uncle Bob's eyes flickered, and he feigned a light sigh. "Letting us assist with the investigation. It couldn't be that Heidi did something, could it? This kid, not coming home for the new year, really wild." Lucas took my mom's arm, chiming in, "Mom, don't be mad. I'll talk to her properly later. A girl should still take care of her reputation." My mom was visibly disturbed, but she still instinctively agreed. "Okay." The younger police officer in the passenger seat frowned. It seemed he struggled to hold back, but ultimately he couldn't. He slightly turned his head towards my mom and said softly, "Your daughter, she was murdered. The body was laid out at the police station. The suspect insisted on seeing you before he would confess to all of his crimes." A heavy silence fell. The words of the young officer struck like thunder inside the car. The 3 people in the back seat suddenly went silent, like a guitar with its strings snapped. The conversation abruptly paused. I floated between the 2 front seats, facing my mother. I stared directly at her. In the past, during moments of emotional turmoil, she had hysterically wished me dead. Now, I really was dead. Would she be sad? My mother's expression was a mix of bewilderment and helplessness. Her hands, resting on her knees, tightened slightly. She opened her mouth, and after a long pause, a few words squeezed out from her throat. "How could this be?" Lucas, sitting beside us, seemed to snap back to reality, and blurted out, "Heidi, what did she do to deserve being killed?" He was more curious about the mistakes I had made than the news of my death. It was his instinct to amplify anything that could make others dislike me. The officer gave him a deep look but remained silent. However, the look in his eyes made Lucas realize something was amiss. He curbed his inappropriate curiosity and sheepishly turned to my mother. "Mom, I just can't accept it." Before he could finish, my mother withdrew the arm he was holding. She looked down, silent. Lucas's breath hitched, his face alternating between red and white. He had never been treated this way before. He wanted to say more, but Uncle Bob silenced him with a look. Silence filled the car again until we reached the police station. The 2 officers led the way inside. They briefly explained the situation to my mom and the others. "We found the victim, Heidi's body, in an abandoned factory in the west of the city." A local resident walking his dog in the morning reported the case when his dog brought back a piece of what seemed to be a human finger. "As for the suspect, you know him." My mother's steps faltered. The officer leading the way stopped as well. "His name is Leo, and he lives just below your apartment." He opened a door and said softly, "Please be prepared. The condition of the victim's body is not good. It's quite mutilated." The tool Leo used for the crime was a bone-chopping knife. When my mother and the others saw me, they realized the police had been quite understated. The lower half of my body was almost just a skeleton, and the upper half was marked with stitches. My head was intact but had suffered abuse while I was alive. Even though it was winter, and no bloating had occurred, my body had already begun to decompose. Lucas glanced at me once and immediately turned away. Uncle Bob reacted similarly. Both men were somewhat unable to accept the sight, but my mother walked up close and looked at me intently for a long time. Her gaze swept over me inch by inch. Even in life, She had never looked at me so closely and seriously. After seeing my body, they followed the police to the interrogation room. Leo was sitting in a specially made chair. According to the police, he had admitted to the murder after being arrested but had consistently refused to detail the crime process. He's here. Upon seeing the people behind the reinforced glass, Leo grinned broadly and laughed. Did you enjoy the cured meat? It's a pity your daughter was too thin. Even after stripping all the meat, it didn't amount to much. He seemed to regretfully click his tongue, changing the expressions of everyone present instantly. A police officer muttered, no wonder only the skeleton was left of the victim's lower half. The cured meat you sent to our house. Lucas's eyes widened. Uncle Bob also realized, madman, you're a madman. The next second, both men covered their mouths, retching. They rushed out of the interrogation room, but actually, on that day, the cured meat Leo brought was still dripping with blood, although my mom cooked it. She hesitated and eventually switched to cured meat bought from the market. However, Uncle Bob and Lucas were unaware of this. Seeing their reactions, Leo burst into laughter again. Meanwhile, my mom stood still, motionless. Her chest heaved, her fingernails turned white with pressure, almost digging into her flesh. Why? My mom stared at the person in front of her. She asked the question I never had the chance to ask before I died. Leo's laughter abruptly stopped, his gaze turning sinister. Why? Because such an unfilial beast should be stuffed back into its mother's womb. They all should die, just die. In the midst of his crazed cursing, the police recorded his motive for murder. Leo had lost his spouse early and had a son, but his son was irresponsible, always mingling with gangsters from society. Eventually, he got addicted to drugs and secretly mortgaged their house. Not stopping there, he borrowed high-interest loans in Leo's name. When debt collectors came knocking, he took the money and fled. Since then, Leo's psyche gradually twisted. He targeted me because he had heard from my mom that I seldom returned home after graduation. I didn't really keep my family in my heart. Uncle Bob and Lucas always appeared dismissive when dealing with outsiders. Unable to find his own son, his full bitterness and hatred shifted towards me. Coincidentally, he met me in the elevator that day. He said it was an opportunity given by God, an opportunity to punish an unfilial beast. Throughout the interrogation, my mom remained silent. She gazed at Leo with an indescribable look, intensely watching him. As it ended, she turned to the police. Will he be sentenced to death? The police hesitated slightly before speaking. The premeditated murder was severe, and the suspect shows no remorse. If the victim's family does not forgive, there is a high likelihood he will be sentenced to death. My mom nodded, her gaze piercing Leo. I will not write a letter of forgiveness. He must be sentenced to death. With that, she turned and walked towards the door of the interrogation room. Upon hearing my mom's words, Leo's face darkened, like a venomous snake lurking in the dark. His handcuffed hands slammed down on the table, making a loud noise. I was helping you. I helped you. When I took her out of the elevator, I heard it. How happy your family of 3 was laughing at home. Besides, this was your choice, wasn't it? I gave her a chance. But you never wanted to reply to her messages. As he spoke, he laughed uncontrollably again. My mom staggered slightly, but she didn't stop or look back. From beginning to end, she didn't show much emotional fluctuation. I followed behind her. I remembered what my grandma used to say, that when my mom was young, she had a little Samoyed. Later, because it got sick, the dog passed away. She cried for a long time, going several days without the appetite to eat. Mom, am I really so insignificant in your heart? You didn't even seem to grieve much when I was struggling in the elevator, when punches and kicks fell like rain, when the cold blade sliced through flesh and severed bones. Did your heart ever skip a beat? Have you ever had a moment when you thought of me? Never. You were busy calling Lucas to eat, busy preparing New Year gifts for him, busy joining them in scolding me. Mom, I hate you. My mom and the others picked up my body from the police station. Then they took it to the funeral home. She watched as I was pushed into the cremation furnace. Unlike other family members who broke down crying, my mom just watched calmly, without any reaction, not until the ashes were ready, not until the urn was handed to her. My mom seemed a bit lost, murmuring, how come only this small box is left? Lucas stepped forward, gently patting her shoulder. Mom, the deceased is gone. Don't be too sad. Yes, take care of yourself. Uncle Bob also hurried to comfort her, but my mom slightly turned away, avoiding his comforting hand. She suddenly looked at Lucas. You said earlier she hung up your call and told you to get lost, but the police said her time of death was over 10 days ago. Lucas was stunned, his eyelids drooping, seemingly unable to meet my mom's gaze. I might have called the wrong number, he explained hurriedly. Mom, it wasn't intentional that I didn't contact her, I know. My mom didn't dwell on it further. As she walked out of the funeral home, she seemed dazzled by the harsh sunlight. Her grip on the urn tightened. If only I had opened the door to check on her then, if I had replied to that text message, would she then not have ended up in here? No one answered. I stood in the shadow behind her, watching indifferently. Mom, did you forget what you told me before? There are no ifs. The day after my burial, my mom received a call from my mentor's wife, Heidi's mom. I still can't reach Heidi. Is she at home? My mom paused. She's gone. The funeral was just yesterday. A noise came through the phone, like something was knocked over. Then came the choked voice of my mentor's wife. How could this be? Heidi told me she would be back soon. Eventually, she couldn't hold back her sobs and hung up. A while later, my mom's phone vibrated. It was a message from her. Please find a time to collect Heidi's belongings. An address was included. Early the next morning, my mom booked the earliest flight. Uncle Bob and Lucas considerately decided to accompany her, and she didn't object. I had moved into my mentor's wife's home in my sophomore year. The bedroom wasn't large, but it was fully equipped. There was even a bouquet of bright lilies on the desk by the window. My mentor's wife was a person who enjoyed life, always smiling, but now, her eyes were swollen from crying. I've packed some things that I had to give you, the rest I'll keep as a memento. My husband and I don't have children, and over the years, I've come to see Heidi as my own daughter. My mom held the storage box, at a loss for words. Uncle Bob looked around the house, smiling at my mentor's wife. Heidi was quite pampered. Thank you for putting up with her for so long. If we had known earlier that she couldn't adapt to the dormitory at school. He didn't finish his sentence as my mentor's wife's expression turned cold. Heidi didn't stay in the dormitory during college because she was ill. I didn't want to say this, but Heidi had a severe case of sleepwalking, caused by long-term psychological stress. My mom's body suddenly swayed, almost dropping the box. Mom. Lucas quickly stepped forward to support her. Uncle Bob looked incredulous. How could that be? She studied psychology herself. The teacher's wife pursed her lips. Physician, heal thyself. The impact of one's family of origin may take a lifetime to heal. Heidi was an excellent student, and my husband really liked her. He wanted to help her as soon as he found out about her condition. Everything was getting better. At this point, her tears began to fall. Don't cry. I raised my hand to wipe them away, but my hand just passed through her cheek. I could only give a bitter smile. Yes, everything was getting better. The teacher would regularly provide me with psychological counseling. During the holidays, the teacher's wife would pull me out of my bedroom. Together, we would check out the food streets and scenic spots. They introduced me to many things I had never done before. For the first time, I had a complete birthday celebration. For the first time, we went out for a walk, hand in hand. For the first time, we took a family portrait. Countless firsts, and from them, I received the love my parents never gave. But a child starved of love searches for it their whole life. My sleepwalking could never be fully cured. Perhaps it was triggered again by Lucas sending a family photo to show off, or when I read a passage glorifying maternal love. The condition would flare up again. The teacher said, covering up the wound won't heal it, if you can't let go. Then try again. The teacher's wife said she would put on the most beautiful flowers and wait for my return. If you can't be accepted, then be her child. So, I took annual leave from the hospital. Before the new year, I went home. I always knew, ever since my dad left, my mom had been sick, as my grandmother said. Her illness was in her heart, endless guilt and regret, submerged day after day, for the rest of her life. Only by hating me, she could live. And Uncle Bob's brow and eyes somewhat resembled my dad's. That's why my mom accepted him so quickly. She wove a false narrative for herself. My dad didn't leave. They had a boy, a family of 3, as always, but my existence always reminded her, it's all fake. My dad is no longer here. She began to find ways to ignore me, to stay away from me. After graduation, I cured many patients. I thought I could cure her, cure myself, but everything ended before it even began. The moment my mom and that man mentioned me, the moment the elevator doors closed on the ninth floor, was forever left in that abandoned factory. I could never return. After calming herself, the teacher's wife took out a bank card. Heidi was planning to save enough money in here to buy a house. She said she'd always keep a room for you. Whenever you're ready to step out of that illusion, you can always come to her. My mom looked at the card and never reached out to take it. In the end, it was Uncle Bob who took it. Before leaving, my mom suddenly turned around. When did she start sleepwalking? The teacher's wife glanced at Lucas. In her senior year of high school, Heidi said that at that time, she took the blame for her brother, but later her brother spread the word, and her classmates avoided her like a virus. That day, my mom took the money to the office. Someone in our class had seen it, Lucas, fearing that others would view him differently, loudly accused me of stealing the class funds. What good is academic excellence if you're morally corrupt? I heard her mom even came to school to apologize. Stay away from her. Who knows when your things might mysteriously disappear. After that, a void formed around me. When I got home, Lucas approached me with a gleeful smirk. I was fed up with him and yelled at him to get lost. But my mom just frowned and said, "It's just a small matter. It didn't even affect your guaranteed admission. Do you really have to hold a grudge and make everyone walk on eggshells around you?" That night, I hid in the cramped closet, like a small animal licking its wounds alone. Exhausted from crying, I eventually drifted off to sleep. When I woke up, I found myself barefoot on the rooftop terrace. The howling cold wind and the pitch darkness around me filled me with despair. I had no memory of how I had left my room or my house, so I started locking my door every night. But my mom thought I was just throwing a tantrum. She said it was sick. Silence. After the teacher finished speaking, no one made a sound. My mom suddenly turned to look at Lucas with a cold gaze. Lucas panicked and stuttered, "Mom, I didn't mean to." As soon as he spoke, my mom hurled a storage box at him. Lucas cried out in pain as blood streamed from his nose. Uncle Bob quickly grabbed some paper to stop the bleeding. "What are you doing? He was just a kid and didn't know any better." My mom clenched her jaw, trembling. "Did you ever treat her like a sister?" Lucas, recovering from the pain, replied resentfully, "I didn't go to the teacher about Heidi stealing the class funds." Uncle Bob quickly covered his mouth and scolded him, then turned to my mom and said, "He's just saying that out of spite. Don't mind him." The teacher, however, scoffed at this moment. "Heidi is already gone. Who are you arguing for?" Suddenly, the three of them choked on their words. It was as if someone had hit the pause button. On the way home, there was utter silence. At night, my mom came out of the bedroom. She locked herself in the bathroom. Holding that bank card, she began to repeatedly dial my phone. Before, my mom would never call me first, even when I tried to contact her. The first call would definitely go unanswered. If she was in a better mood, she might pick up on the second try. If not, she'd just leave her phone aside and ignore it. But now, she was stubbornly redialing. As the phone kept ringing on the other end, hearing the mechanical voice saying no one was available, her hands began to tremble slightly. Suddenly, an uncontrollable sob broke out. My mom bowed her head, curling up. Tears dropped to the floor like falling stars. It seemed like only at that moment did she realize that I was already dead. I leaned against the wall, watching her cry her heart out in agony, watching her finally grieve for me so deeply. I thought I would feel satisfied, feel relieved, but my heart felt empty, like a wasteland, like still water, no longer fluctuating. Originally, all that intense love and hate had already been exhausted during her lifetime. "Mom, do you understand what it feels like to receive no response? Stop calling. No one is waiting for you on the other end of the line." One morning, Lucas pushed open his bedroom door. As usual, he went straight to the kitchen and opened the refrigerator. Drinking a bottle of orange juice first thing in the morning had become a habit, but as soon as he opened the fridge door, he was stunned. It was packed with dozens of bottles of apple juice. Seeing someone walk past, he instinctively called out, "Mom, where's my orange juice?" His mother glanced over with an indifferent tone. "Can't you just drink apple juice?" Lucas paused, silently swallowing his displeasure. He watched his mother's retreating figure with a flicker of resentment in his eyes. That afternoon, his mother stuffed her bank card into her purse and drove to a nearby welfare home, a place she had read about in my storage box filled with many donation certificates. The director, a kind elderly lady much like a grandmother, was shocked when she learned from my mother about my passing. Heidi used to donate to the welfare home almost every month, she said. She would also bring educational supplies, clothes, and nutritional products for the children. How could such a good person not be treated well? My mother felt a lump in her throat, painfully handing over her bank card to the director. This is what Heidi last wanted to donate to the welfare home. Just then, a little girl around 7 or 8 years old passed by. Her eyes lit up, and she hurried over. Did Heidi come? I miss her so much. The director froze, and my mother crouched down. Sister might not be able to come for a short while. She asked me to come see you. The little girl's face fell. Last time, Heidi said she would come to play with me soon. My mother stroked her head. Do you really like her? Of course. Heidi said that having a mom doesn't always mean happiness. But she will always love us. Those words were soft but struck my mother like a whip, like a tsunami following a hurricane. She couldn't help but clutch her chest as sobs escaped her. The director, startled, bent down to comfort her. Mother Heidi, please take care, she said. If you still miss the child, perhaps consider adopting. My mother looked up, her face streaked with tears. No, she gently shook her head. I'm not a good mother. I watched coldly. Mom, what are you doing? You start loving me after I'm gone, but how long can this delayed love last? Until your guilt is completely worn away, until time heals all wounds. Am I just supposed to be trapped in that house that isn't a home, listening to you say that the living must go on? For several days, my mother stayed in my room, wiping every item back and forth as if reminiscing through belongings. Just when I thought I'd be trapped here forever, something unexpected happened. Lucas called, saying there was an emergency, urging my mother and Uncle Bob to come quickly. When they arrived, they found Lucas with his left leg bleeding profusely, held hostage in the middle. He begged them, tears streaming, to save him. My mother remained relatively calm, took a deep breath, and walked away without saying a word. I floated not far from them, with a smile that wasn't quite a smile. It was always like this. Uncle Bob had behaved so differently from my dad countless times. Yet my mom always chose to turn a blind eye. She firmly covered her own eyes, blocked her ears, and even erased me. 2 uneventful days passed. Since Lucas broke his leg, he had been bedridden. This afternoon, Uncle Bob was not at home. He said he went fishing with friends. My mom carried a meal to Lucas's door. Just as she was about to knock, clear voices came from inside. It was Lucas's girlfriend, video chatting with him. Don't mention bacon to me, I'm sick of it. That annoying jerk dying and still pulling this stunt. Such bad luck. Yeah, I know, baby, don't worry. I'll make sure the old witch coughs up the money. When the time comes, you say how many rooms, and we'll buy that many. Who cares about serving in-laws? Just be nice to my dad when the time comes. As for that old witch, she's not even my real mom. I'm only tolerating her because she still has some money. Lucas, wearing headphones, had no idea how loud he was speaking. Plus, with the recent shift in my mom's attitude towards him, he had built up a lot of resentment. He really needed to vent. My mom stood at the door, her hands trembling slightly with the dishes. Her chest heaved dramatically, just as she was about to twist the doorknob and enter. Thump, 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 the front door was pounded upon. My mom looked towards Lucas's room and suppressed her anger. Bang, the door opened, and Uncle Bob, barely clothed, was thrown inside. His face was bruised and swollen. He curled up his body. I've never seen such shameless people. A middle-aged man's voice came from the doorway. My mom widened her eyes. Simon, what are you doing? She quickly helped Uncle Bob to the sofa and covered him with a blanket. Fishing. How did my Bob end up beaten like this from fishing? Simon called into the room, followed by a woman. He snorted. Fishing. Who goes fishing and ends up in someone else's wife's bed? He then pushed the woman forward. My mom was stunned. Then she rushed forward, grabbing the woman's wrist. Monica, you. Monica's face turned crimson. She avoided eye contact. I'm sorry, I didn't want to, but he kept giving me money. Simon was furious. You too, at your age, have no shame at all. He stepped forward, ready to kick the person on the sofa again. Don't hit me anymore, Uncle Bob, wrapped in the blanket, Staggered behind my mom, his eyes pleaded. I was momentarily bewitched. It won't happen again. At that moment, Lucas awkwardly shuffled out of his room. Seeing the scene, he was somewhat dumbfounded. Uncle Bob quickly signaled to him, "Lucas, please, talk to your mom. Dad was wrong. It definitely won't happen again." Lucas looked at Monica, then at his dad, turning his gaze. He played up to my mom. "Mom, look, Dad's already been beaten up like this. Please forgive him this once." Simon scoffed. "You father and son really know how to play a double act. No wonder you could drive away someone's own daughter." Drifting above, also laughed. "When I was young, Uncle Bob always had one facade in front of others and another behind their backs. At first, I really liked him. After all, he was nice to me in front of my mom, until one time, my mother went on a business trip. Then he completely changed his demeanor. Go away. Don't bother me. I'm not your dad. Your real dad died long ago." In junior high, I even caught him joking around with other women, but when my mom found out, she just looked at me coldly. "How heartless. She wasted all her kindness on you, and all you do is make up stories." I didn't understand back then, not until I grew up. No matter the truth, my mom wouldn't tear off that veil of shame. For her, maintaining that false image of a family was most important, and now, as I look at my mom, I can almost predict how she will try to smooth things over. Seeing that my mom didn't react, Lucas shouted, "Mom, say something. Do you really want to force Dad and me to leave this home?" My mom's gaze shifted back and forth between the father and son the whole time, aloof and cold, evaluating, over and over. It was as if she was forcibly dragged back to reality, brutal, full of scars. Suddenly, she smiled. "How could we possibly leave?" In the end, my mom paid Simon $5,000. The middle-aged man grumbled as he pushed the woman away. Uncle Bob, eager to please, knelt down close to my mom and started to apologize. My mom didn't even look at him and went into the bedroom without a word. As evening approached, my mom came out, went to the supermarket downstairs, and bought a case of beer. She then cooked a table full of dishes. Uncle Bob and Lucas were somewhat uneasy. When they finally sat down at the table, my mom had a smile on her lips. "A lot has happened at home recently, but I still hope that we three can live happily ever after." She filled the glasses in front of the two men with beer. Uncle Bob's expression relaxed, and he looked affectionately at my mom. "I knew it. You love me and Lucas the most." My mom didn't respond and turned to Lucas. "Lucas, I've gathered all the money you need for buying a house. Tomorrow, we'll go house hunting." Lucas, surprised and delighted, said, "Really, Mom? Thank you." Then, my mom began to refill their glasses, one after another, until finally, empty beer bottles littered the floor. Uncle Bob and Lucas, their faces flushed, lay drunkenly on the table, occasionally mumbling incoherently, and my mom just quietly watched the two of them. After a while, she gently shook her head. "Indeed, what's fake will always remain fake." She dragged several braziers and a large bag of coal from the storeroom. She placed all the coal into the braziers and lit them, setting them all in my room. She also dragged the two unconscious men inside. She tied their hands and feet with ropes, locked the room door, closed the windows tightly. She even sealed the door gap meticulously with curtains. After everything was done, my mom, holding her bank card, carefully pressed her cheek against it. "Heidi, I'm sorry, your dad spoiled me, and later, you spoiled me too. Today, I've torn apart this facade myself. In the next life, Heidi, be my daughter again. Let Mom make it up to you, okay?" I watched her, sweeping over her, inch by inch. It was just like the way she looked at me at the police station that day. "Mom, since you chose to live in confusion before, why not continue to do so? I understand you, but I still hate you. Instead of forcing a perfect resolution, it's better to part ways peacefully. In the next life, let's not meet again." Her pupils gradually dilated, the cherry red color at her lips slowly turned to a bruised purple. Slowly, her breathing became faint. I felt a lightness in my body, slowly floating upwards, drifting into the distance. Not 1,000 miles away, I went to fulfill a promise made before death. I returned to the side of my teacher and his wife, watching them change the lilies in the vase in their bedroom every week, watching them travel wearily to the welfare home I had mentioned and adopt a child. It was the girl who always hoped to see me. I watched her, watched as she was led by two adults, one on each side. From then on, she would never lack love. Children who grow up in love see even getting lost as a journey, not like me. For decades, I've been struggling to reconcile with myself. Finally, the last bit of concern in my heart is resolved. My soul drifts towards the sky, passing a gracefully fluttering kite, brushing past a flock of brightly feathered birds, crossing through a colorful rainbow, at last, landing on a soft, white cloud. All around me are the chirping sounds of choosing a mother, until one day, a sensation of falling overcomes me. I find myself in a warm and comfortable environment. I hear a conversation nearby, woman's voice. I really hope it's a girl. Man's voice. If it's a girl, what do you hope she'll become? Woman's voice. My daughter, as long as she's healthy and happy, that's enough. Hearing this, all memories of my past rapidly fade away. In this life, all I need is to love and be loved. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.